Your sister's secret exposing. What he told the bank will shock you. My beloved child. Your sister walked into a bank carrying a secret she had protected for years, and what she told the manager was not merely about money. It was about you. She entered shortly before closing, asked to speak with someone privately, and placed a worn envelope on the desk. The manager expected ordinary paperwork, but the moment he read the name written inside, his expression changed. It was your name. Connected to an account you were never supposed to discover. Your sister's voice trembled as she explained that the money had been quietly set aside long ago, before a painful family disagreement changed everything. But that was only the beginning. The account contained a restriction, a date, and a handwritten instruction that could not be ignored. Don't skip, because the person who created it had known something about your future that no one ever told you. At first, the manager believed your sister had come to protect the account. Then she made a confession that turned the entire conversation upside down. She admitted she had known about it for years. She had seen the documents. She had heard your name mentioned behind a closed door. And instead of telling you, she remained silent because someone in the family convinced her that revealing the truth would destroy the peace between you. But peace was not the real reason. Fear was. The money was connected to a decision made when you were younger, a decision that quietly took away an opportunity meant specifically for you. Your sister told the bank that she could no longer pretend the account belonged to someone else. She had brought proof, an old signature, a private letter, and a photograph taken on the exact day the arrangement was made. Yet the manager noticed something strange. One page was missing, and without it, the bank could not release anything. When he asked who had removed that page, your sister lowered her eyes. Then came the detail that shocked even the manager. Your sister confessed that she knew where the missing page was, and who had been hiding it. She explained that someone close to you had recently tried to close the account before you could learn it existed. That attempt failed because the original instructions required your presence and identification. Your sister had gone to the bank first because she wanted to stop the account from disappearing, but she also feared what would happen when you discovered her silence. This was no longer simply about hidden money. It was about stolen time, broken trust, and a sacrifice made in your name without your permission. Before leaving, she gave the manager a phone number and asked him to contact you directly if anything happened to her paperwork. But as she reached the door, he called her back. He had found a sealed note attached to the oldest record in the file, a note addressed to you, with one chilling sentence written across the front, "Open only when your sister finally tells the truth." And what that note reveals will change the way you see your entire family. The manager did not open the note immediately. He placed it beneath the desk lamp and studied the faded seal, realizing it had remained untouched for more than a decade. Your sister stood frozen near the door, because she recognized the handwriting. It belonged to the family member who had created the account, the same person whose final wishes had been discussed in whispers but never shown to you. When the manager asked whether you knew anything about the arrangement, your sister admitted you had been deliberately given a different story. You were told there was nothing left in your name. Nothing to claim. Nothing worth questioning. But the sealed note proved otherwise. Before the manager could proceed, he needed your sister to answer one uncomfortable question: why had she waited until now? Her response was barely audible. Someone had contacted her 3 nights earlier and warned her that the account would soon be erased from the family's history. That warning had not arrived by phone. It came through a photograph slipped beneath her front door. The picture showed you standing outside a familiar building, unaware that someone was watching from across the street. On the back, a message had been written: "Keep the past buried, or they will lose more than the money." Your sister brought the photograph to the bank because she finally understood that her silence was no longer protecting you. It was making you vulnerable. The manager examined it and noticed a timestamp in the lower corner. It matched the same date listed in the account instructions, only years later. That could not be dismissed as coincidence. Stay till the end, because your sister then revealed something she had never admitted to anyone. On the night the account was created, she overheard an argument about a house, a signature, and a promise made to you. The hidden funds were not the entire inheritance. They were compensation for something valuable that had quietly been transferred out of your name. The manager asked her to describe the missing page, and her answer exposed how carefully the truth had been concealed. It was not a bank statement. It was a notarized declaration confirming that you were the intended beneficiary of both the account and a share in the family property. Your sister had discovered it inside an old folder years earlier, but before she could bring it to you, another relative caught her holding it. That person took the document and forced her to promise she would never mention what she had seen. She obeyed, carrying the guilt every time you struggled, questioned your worth, or wondered why certain relatives treated you like an outsider. But now she was ready to identify the person responsible. The manager turned on the office recorder and asked her to state the name clearly. Your sister took a slow breath, looked directly at the sealed note, and spoke. Before the recording could save, however, the bank's system suddenly went dark. Every screen in the room shut down at once, and from the locked records area behind them came the unmistakable sound of someone moving. A soft metallic click came from behind the records room door, and your sister's face went pale. That room was supposed to be empty. The manager reached beneath his desk for the security alert, but before he could press it, the door opened and a senior bank employee stepped into the office holding the missing page. He claimed he had found it during a routine archive review, yet the document was not dusty or forgotten. Its corner was freshly torn, and the folder in his hand carried your family's name. Your sister recognized him immediately. Years earlier, she had seen him meeting privately with the relative who forced her into silence. The manager demanded an explanation, but the employee calmly said the page was invalid and should be destroyed. Then your sister noticed something beneath his thumb, a second signature that had never appeared on the original document. The signature belonged to her. Or at least, it was supposed to. Your sister moved closer and realized someone had copied her name onto a statement claiming that you had willingly surrendered your rights. She had never signed it. More importantly, you had never even been present when the alleged agreement was made. The employee insisted the bank could not investigate without the original witnesses, but he made one revealing mistake. He mentioned the exact amount transferred from the account, a figure that had not been shown on any screen or spoken aloud. The manager caught it too. Only someone who had accessed the restricted file could have known that number. Suddenly, the blackout made sense. Someone was attempting to erase the access history before your sister's recorded statement could expose the fraud. But the employee did not know the manager had activated a separate audio recorder moments earlier. Everything he had just admitted was already preserved. Your sister finally spoke the name she had been afraid to say, and the truth cut deeper than she expected. The relative behind the deception was the person who had always presented themselves as your protector, the one who offered advice, comforted you during difficult years, and repeatedly told you to stop asking questions about the past. That person had not merely hidden your inheritance. They had used part of it to secure a private loan, placing your future at risk without your knowledge. The bank employee had helped create the false declaration in exchange for a promise that was never fulfilled. Now both of them were desperate because the loan had reached its final deadline. If the account was restored to you, their entire arrangement would collapse. But something huge was waiting for you inside the sealed note. When the manager finally broke the seal, he found no farewell message. Instead, there was a small brass key taped to the paper and an address written beneath it. Your sister recognized the location at once. It belonged to a private deposit vault across town, and according to the final line, the vault contained the one piece of evidence no forged signature could ever defeat. Your sister insisted on going to the vault with the manager that same evening, but the brass key was only half of what they needed. The address led to a private storage facility that operated independently from the bank, and its records showed that the box could be opened only when two named witnesses were present. One witness was your sister. The other was you. That discovery changed everything, because it meant the person who arranged the vault had anticipated the deception and designed one final safeguard around your identity. As the manager copied the address, his phone rang from an unlisted number. A voice told him to return the key, destroy the recording, and forget your family had ever entered his office. He refused. Then the caller quietly revealed where his daughter was working that evening, proof that the people protecting this secret had been watching more than just you. The manager immediately contacted security and sent the recording to a protected server before anyone could erase it. Your sister begged him to call you, but the senior employee suddenly offered a deal. If they kept your name out of the investigation, he would reveal who had ordered the forged transfer and where the missing money had gone. The offer sounded useful, yet your sister noticed he was stalling. His eyes kept moving toward the clock. The private storage facility would close in less than 40 minutes, and once midnight passed, the vault agreement allowed an unnamed third party to request its contents. Someone had planned to empty the box before you discovered it. The manager refused the deal and arranged for another branch officer to secure the documents. But as your sister reached for her phone, she found a message already waiting: "Do not bring them to the vault. You still have time to protect your sibling." Those words struck her because they appealed to the same fear that had controlled her for years. Once again, someone was pretending silence would keep you safe. This time, she chose differently. She called you and said only what was necessary. Bring identification, trust no one who contacts you first, and meet her at the address written in the note. She did not explain the inheritance. She did not mention the forged signature. She feared that if your phone was being monitored, one careless sentence could reveal what they had learned. Then, just before ending the call, you asked a question that left her speechless. You said you already knew the address because you had received an identical key months earlier from an unknown sender. But your key carried a different number. The manager compared the two and realized they belonged to separate boxes inside the same vault. One had been prepared for your sister to confess the truth. The other had been waiting specifically for you, and someone had recently attempted to open it using your stolen identity. By the time you reached the storage facility, the front doors were already locked, even though closing time was still 20 minutes away. Your sister stood beside the manager near the entrance, clutching her key so tightly that its edges marked her palm. Through the glass, you could see a security guard speaking to someone in a dark coat. The moment that person noticed you, they turned away and disappeared down a restricted hallway. You showed your identification through the service window, but the guard claimed the facility had closed because of a technical problem. Then the manager pointed to a camera above the door. Its recording light was off. Every safeguard seemed to be failing at precisely the right moment. But your sister noticed something the others missed. The guard was wearing the same unusual silver ring visible on the hand holding the photograph that had been slipped beneath her door. The manager quietly called the facility's regional office while your sister confronted the guard. At first, he denied knowing anything about the photograph. Then she described the handwritten warning on its back, and his confidence cracked. He admitted he had delivered the picture, but insisted he had never followed you. Someone had paid him to frighten your sister and delay both of you until midnight. He was not told what the vault contained. He was only given your names, your photographs, and instructions to report the moment you arrived. When the regional office remotely unlocked the entrance, the guard stepped aside. Yet before you entered, he offered one final warning. The person in the dark coat had arrived using documents bearing your name. That stranger had passed the first identity check and was already standing near your deposit box. You moved quickly through the corridor, but when you reached the vault area, the stranger was gone. On the counter lay a copy of your identification with your photograph replaced by someone else's. Beside it was an authorization form carrying the same forged signature used to surrender your inheritance. The scheme was larger than one dishonest employee. Someone had built an entire false version of you on paper, one that could sign away property, withdraw money, and disappear before the real you knew anything existed. Don't skip, because the two keys now revealed their purpose. Your sister's box opened first and contained the original declaration, untouched and fully notarized. It proved your rights had never legally been surrendered. But your box held something far more personal, a small voice recorder, several dated photographs, and a sealed envelope labeled, "For the day they try to become you." You pressed play, expecting to hear the relative who created the account. Instead, the first voice on the recording belonged to your sister, and it was confessing to a secret she had not yet told you. Your sister reached for the recorder, but you pulled it closer before she could stop the message. Her younger voice filled the silent vault, trembling as she admitted that years ago, she had been asked to identify you on a set of family documents. She believed she was confirming your right to the inheritance. In reality, the papers were later switched, and her statement became the foundation of the false identity now being used against you. She had discovered the substitution only after seeing your copied signature, but shame kept her from confessing. Then the recording revealed something even she had forgotten. A second voice asked whether she understood who would benefit if you disappeared from the records. Your sister answered with a name, but a sudden burst of static covered it completely. Someone had intentionally damaged that exact portion of the audio. The photographs provided the next clue. Each one showed a private meeting between the senior bank employee, the relative posing as your protector, and a third person whose face was always turned away. The dates covered several years, proving this was not a single impulsive act. It was a carefully maintained arrangement. In the final photograph, however, a reflection in a nearby window revealed part of the third person's face. Your sister recognized the shape of the glasses and a distinctive scar near the eyebrow. It was the family attorney who had once assured everyone that no valid will existed. The truth was finally taking form. The attorney had designed the false paperwork, the bank employee had moved the funds, and the relative had kept you emotionally distant from every record that could expose them. Yet one question remained. Who had secretly photographed their meetings and placed the evidence inside your vault? The sealed envelope answered only part of that mystery. Inside was a letter written by someone who claimed to have witnessed the original agreement. The writer explained that your inheritance had been created after a family property was sold without your consent. The account was meant to restore what had been taken from you, while the vault preserved proof in case anyone tried to interfere. But before signing their name, the writer left an unsettling instruction. Do not trust the person who brings you here unless they tell you what happened on the night of the fire. You looked at your sister, expecting confusion. Instead, tears filled her eyes. She knew exactly which fire the letter meant, the unexplained blaze that destroyed your family's old records years earlier. Until that moment, you had always believed it was an accident. Your sister finally admitted she had been inside the house shortly before it started, and she had seen someone carrying a box of documents toward the back door. The person she saw was not the relative already exposed. It was someone you had trusted even more. For several painful seconds, your sister could not bring herself to say the name. Then she revealed that the person leaving the house that night was your mother's closest friend. The woman who had remained beside your family after the fire, helped replace lost documents, and encouraged you to accept that the past could never be recovered. Your sister had seen her carrying the metal document box, but the woman later claimed she had rescued it from the flames. That explanation seemed believable until the box vanished before investigators arrived. Now the photographs, the forged records, and the warning inside the vault suggested she had not been saving evidence. She had been removing it. But why would someone with no legal claim to your inheritance risk everything to help erase your identity? The answer began to emerge when the manager examined the original declaration more closely. Beneath the notary stamp was a faint handwritten reference number connected to an insurance settlement issued after the property sale. The beneficiary listed on that policy was not anyone in your immediate family. It was the same woman your sister had seen leaving the house. She had received a large payment after the fire, then used part of it to finance the private loan secured against your hidden inheritance. The relative who pretended to protect you had not created the scheme. They had been recruited into it. The family attorney designed the legal deception, while the bank employee concealed the transfers. At the center stood the woman everyone considered loyal. Yet the voice recorder contained one final file, recorded much more recently than the others, and the timestamp showed it had been made only 6 days ago. You pressed play, and the woman's voice filled the vault. She sounded frightened, not triumphant. She confessed that the fire had been intended to destroy only the forged papers, but someone had started it before she could remove the originals. She claimed the scheme had moved beyond her control and that the person now using your stolen identity was